Good evening, everybody. Ooh, it's a loud one. Excellent. Great turnout. Thank you for coming today. I'm Hilda Wong-Du. I'm part of the board at the Winchester Historical Society, and I chair the program committee. So we're excited to have tonight's film. It's really the cap off of all of our activities that we've planned for the 175th birthday of Winchester. So it's nice to cap it off with something, a piece of art by Peter. So I met Peter on the board probably like 13, 14 years ago now. And in that time, he's continued, like he always amazed me because both you and Carol, you're always learning something new and with endless energy. So for those of you who do not know Peter, locally, he's been cultural council, as I mentioned, the Historical Society board. He helped get Legacy Winchester part of our scope at the Historical Society. He's been on WinCam's board. Before that, he was a color scientist, which is fascinating to me. He's a photographer, and he's also an award-winning filmmaker. So it's great to have you tonight. Thank you. And I'm going to pass it on to you so you can introduce tonight's film. I will tell you that this weekend we took a walk along Right Lock Farm, and a few years back, Peter took us on a tour of that part of the border. And I'll never forget that. We're like walking through the woods and it's covered in leaves. So it was right around this time, right? And it was super slippery with big hills. And I'm like, oh my God, this is very treacherous. So, but here it is by film, much safer. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Hilda. Well, certainly thank you all for coming. And as Hilda mentioned, this year marks the 175th anniversary of the founding of Winchester. So, how did we get here? Okay, I mean, we're a town. Why is it called Winchester? Everybody thinks they know, but some of you really know. And what is its shape? So tonight, in hoping to answer some of those questions, you'll be happy to know that you are witnessing the world premiere of The Changing Shapes of Winchester. And
in the late 1840s, the village of South Woburn was growing both in population and politics. It was a stop on the main line of the Boston and Lowell Railroad called Woburn Gates, with a connection to the Woburn Branch Railroad. While Woburn was more a manufacturing town, with tanneries being the major industry, South Woburn was becoming a residential bedroom community for Boston businessmen. This brought changes in both the politics and the aspirations of the South Woburn village residents. Up to the end of the 19th century, the Congregational Church was at the center of religion, culture, and politics. South Woburn village residents were members of the Woburn Church, but by 1839, they wanted to form their own church in the village. After several rejections by the Woburn Church, the Southerners persevered and formed the South Congregational Church in Woburn. The church building was started in July of 1840 and was dedicated on December 30, 1840. After the creation of Winchester, the name of the church was changed to the Congregational Church in Winchester. South Woburn was growing and developing a political sentiment different from Woburn. Ongoing battles about the allocation of church monies, and increasingly, the belief that South Woburn was being ignored, fostered the idea of a new town. By 1845, the movers and shakers of South Woburn were quietly discussing breaking away from Woburn. Finally, in 1849, the leaders of South Woburn felt the time was ripe for a break from Woburn. The first public revelation came on November 26, 1849, in a call to the inhabitants of South Woburn of a meeting in the vestry of the Congregational Church. The purpose being to take into consideration the subject of petitioning the legislature for an act of incorporation into a separate town, or do anything in relation to same. At the meeting, a committee was formed to investigate the practicality of a new town. A week later, the committee reported favorably, and then a series of committees were appointed to draft a petition to the legislature, gather signatures, and name the new town. Choosing a name for the proposed town proved difficult. Several committees put forth a series of names, including Harmony, Linden, Alton, Winthrop, Wyoming, Mystic, Sheffield, South Woburn, Waterfield, and Columbus. No name received a majority, although with a few more votes, the town could have been called Columbus. Finally, the name Winchester was added to a list that included Appleton, Winthrop, Avon, Channing, and Waterfield. William Parsons Winchester was a prominent Boston meat provisioner and soap manufacturer. Frederick O. Prince, one of the more conspicuous town promoters, reported that if they named the town after Winchester, he would give $3,000 as a compliment paid to his family name. Prince's proposal carried the day, and the name Winchester was added to the legislature petition to incorporate the town. On January 19, 1850, 2 months after the first meeting of the South Woburn's inhabitants, the petition to create the town of Winchester was delivered to the Massachusetts Legislative Committee on Towns. The first of 185 signatories on the petition was Ebenezer Parker, and it became known as the Parker Petition. Of a population of about 1,300, the petition represented more than 70% of the legal voters in the village. But the proposed town of Winchester included more than just South Woburn. The southeast piece was a part of Medford, the area known today as Simms Corner. The southwestern part was from West Cambridge, now Arlington. The northern and largest part was from South Woburn. Convergence of these three towns occurred at Church Street and Sheffield Road by the old Middlesex Canal Bridge. In early February, immediately after submission of the petition on January 19, Medford, West Cambridge, and Woburn filed written objections with the legislature called remonstrances. West Cambridge argued that it was a small town of only 4,000 acres. It was symmetrical in form and bounded by ponds and a stream. The school districts are supposed to be permanently fixed, and the property to form Winchester was given to West Cambridge from Charlestown in 1842 by mutual consent and agreement of all parties. At a Woburn town meeting on February 7, 1850, it was voted that the town is willing that the prayer of the petitioners should be granted on just and equitable terms, said terms to be agreed upon by a committee mutually chosen from each part of the town. After the vote, the supporters left to catch the last train to South Woburn. At that point, a motion was put forth to select a committee to actively lobby the legislature to prevent the formation of Winchester. After contentious debates and parliamentary maneuvering, it was ruled out of order, and the vote stood as passed. It wasn't until a meeting on February 18 that the town of Woburn voted to raise a committee to appear with counsel before the legislature and resist the petition. With this formidable opposition arrayed against Winchester, the petitioners needed to bring their A game to the legislative proceedings to get their new town. To ensure a successful outcome, the petitioners needed to provide the Legislative Committee on Towns some detailed information. The necessity of a new town, the number of inhabitants verified, the wealth of the petitioners and their ability to maintain a town government, the division of the territory so no one be injured, and all maps and proper boundaries. At last, but not least, the petitioners needed to provide witnesses who were well informed and articulate. As part of the ongoing legislative process, the Committee on Towns visited Winchester twice, and it was recorded that they were given a very plain collation of meats and coffee with no liquors of any kind. After numerous legislative hearings, a week-long trial, and honorable opposition by Woburn, the legislation was passed by both houses of the legislature. The governor's signature on April 30, 1850, created the incorporated town of Winchester. This was a mere 6 months after the first meeting at the South Woburn Congregational Church. A final review of the incorporation by the town fathers revealed that no money was used by either side to gain influence, not a dollar for lobby or a supper. And the cost of creating Winchester, including advertising, printing, census taking, and attorney's fees, amounted to $484.52, about $20,000 in today's money. Although the creation of Winchester was speedy, the petitioners did not get all the territory they wanted. The first shape of Winchester included a triangle-shaped piece of land on the northern boundary of today's Winchester. This sliver of land began at the intersection of the Lexington-Woburn line and Lexington Street in Woburn. From there, the proposed boundary ran in a straight line across the southern part of Horn Pond to the intersection of Lake Avenue and Main Street in Woburn. From Main Street, the boundary line ran to today's boundary on Washington Street. After 2 visits to the area of the proposed town, the Legislative Committee on Towns changed the northern boundary to what it is today. The reasoning was benefit instead of injury to school districts, to sever very few estates, and to cross land of trifling value. The new Winchester would be a town consisting of an area of approximately 6.2 square miles. Over the next 114 years, Winchester would experience shape changes that would both add and subtract from the original town boundaries. For the first 23 years, the shape of Winchester was unchanged. The first change occurred in May of 1873. Woburn was building a reservoir on Horn Pond Mountain, property that was officially in the town of Winchester, but Woburn wanted the reservoir and pumping station to be within Woburn. After approval by the towns and the legislature, the 67-acre property was transferred to Woburn. This created the V-shaped notch in Winchester's northern boundary. Woburn used the reservoir until the mid-1980s when it was abandoned. For the next 80 years, the shape of Winchester would remain unchanged. In 1920, the residents in the southwest corner lobbied the Select Board to become part of Arlington. There were several arguments for this succession: no direct access from Winchester, closeness of Arlington schools, and the lack of a Winchester water supply and sewer connection. There was no interest on the part of either town in the 1920 secession effort, and it took 50 years before residents got direct access when Edward Drive and Pepperhill Drive were constructed in the mid-1970s. But this would not be the end of the efforts to change the Arlington boundary. In 1963, an Arlington developer wanted to change the boundary around Steep Rock Road to bring his 3 acres into Arlington. After a review by both Winchester and Arlington planning boards, Arlington decided there was no public benefit to change the Arlington-Winchester boundary. And that was the end of any boundary changes with Arlington. Winchester was not immune to the housing explosion after World War II. There was still considerable land in Winchester for housing on both the east and west side hills. In 1950, a group of property owners convinced town meeting to ask Medford to let Winchester annex a parcel of land in the southeast corner. This triangle-shaped property was locally referred to as the old Sims pasture land. It took 6 years for Medford to agree, largely because they were unable to provide the area services, and they had not zoned it. The legislation was signed by the governor on August 10, 1956, and a 27.5 acre piece of land was added to the town of Winchester. This became the second Winchester shape change. The third and final shape change for Winchester occurred in the decade from 1954 to 1964. In 1954, it was discovered that a small sliver of land between the Lexington and Winchester boundary was in neither town. Legislation passed on February 19, 1954 corrected the boundary. In the housing boom of the 1950s and 60s, a recurring problem was that the subdivisions could span town boundaries. In some cases, the living room might be in Winchester and the kitchen in Lexington. More importantly, which town building codes governed the construction, and how were the taxes determined? In 1962, the Thornbury Road development off Berkshire Drive had some building lots that would lie partially in Winchester, and some lots that would be in Lexington. To eliminate the taxing and building code confusion, it was agreed by both Lexington and Winchester town meetings to change the boundary so all of the lots in the subdivision would be within Winchester. The legislation, passed in March of 1964, gave about 5 acres to Winchester, while Lexington got less than half an acre. This was the last change to Winchester's town boundaries. Shapes can be defined by a series of coordinate points. Lines are drawn between these points, creating the property boundary and ultimately the shape. Without these coordinate points, the shape and the actual location can be ambiguous. The legislation of 1850 defined the boundaries of the new town of Winchester in a wordy, lengthy paragraph. Beginning on the south side of Hill Street, on the line of Woburn and Stoneham, near Jesse Dyke's house, thence running along the town line, southwesterly, 660 rods, to the southeasterly corner of Woburn, thence, in precisely the same direction, 237.5 rods, thence in a straight line westwardly, crossing the Mystic Pond, about 800 rods, to a point in the boundary line of West Cambridge and Lexington. This rather vague description, although common and legal in the 1850s, is not sufficient to locate a town on a map. To accurately map every town's boundary within the Commonwealth, Massachusetts created the Topographical Survey Commission in 1884. Using latitude, longitude, and a consistent set of survey methods, the Commission took 15 years to map the boundaries of all 351 towns and cities in the Commonwealth. The survey results were published in an atlas for each town. Boundaries are defined by a line connecting points called corners. A corner is a surveying term that designates where the boundary line changes direction. In 1899, Winchester was defined by 18 corners, whose latitude and longitude are listed in the atlas. Most of Winchester's corners are marked with granite posts, 4 to 5 feet high, with a W chiseled on the face towards Winchester and a letter for the adjacent town on another face. Remarkably, the Winchester Atlas includes photographs of each of the 18 corners that gives us a snapshot of Winchester 126 years ago. Perambulate in an Old English law is to monitor the bounds of a parish or municipality by walking the boundary. In 1651, the Massachusetts colony continued this custom, passing a law requiring perambulation of town boundaries. By law, the job of perambulation belongs to the select boards or someone designated by the board. Every 5 years, at least 2 persons locate the corners. They must record the condition of the markers and if the markers were located. A formal report is given to the town clerk, the select board, with a copy sent to the clerk and the board of the adjacent town. A visual perambulation, sampling some of Winchester's corners, lets us look into a century of change in the landscape. Corner number 1 is in the southeast corner of Winchester that protrudes into Medford. In 1850, the corner was a rough granite monument or post. Housing development, road construction, and land regrading in the 1950s caused the granite marker to go subterranean. The only evidence of its existence is the spray-painted letters B&D Town on a manhole cover. Had it survived, the monument would have been located at the intersection of Sargent Road and Alden Lane. Along Winchester's boundary, there are 5 corners where the 3 towns meet, called tri-points. Corner 2 is such a tri-point. In the middle of the Mystic Lakes, the boundaries of Medford, Arlington, and Winchester come together. Corner 3 is another tri-point, the intersection of Arlington, Lexington, and Winchester. Corner 3 is also the southwestmost extent of the town. This marker, literally, has history chiseled in stone. When Winchester was incorporated in 1850, the town of Arlington was known as West Cambridge, abbreviated WC on the marker. The 5-foot-high rough granite marker is on a ledge, hence the concrete base with the iron rods for stabilization. Adjacent to Lexington's Whipple Hill Conservation Area, Corner 3 can be easily assessed by a path at the end of Skyline Drive. Walking southwest on the path, about 200 feet, the Corner 3 monument can be seen up to the left on a rise. One of Winchester's oldest corner monuments is Corner number 4. This ancient monument was originally the tri-point of Woburn, Lexington, and West Cambridge. When this corner was installed, the W on the east face did not represent Winchester, it was for Woburn, but today it only marks the Winchester-Lexington boundary. This 2 1/2 foot granite monument on the west property boundary of the Wrightlock Farm dates to 1830. The monument can be found as part of a stone wall that runs along the ridge at the back of the farm. Corner 5 is located off Johnson Road, near the Lexington Whipple Hill Conservation Area parking lot. The monument stands in front of an old stone wall, located in the back of the house at 134 Johnson Road. The number 5 corner mark is a granite monument 3 1/2 feet in height. The letter L is on the south face and W on the north face. The Corner 5 monument is accessible via the Whipple Hill Conservation Area parking lot on Johnson Road. The farthest northwest corner of Winchester is corner number 7. This is the third tri-point on Winchester's boundary, where Lexington, Woburn, and Winchester come together. The old Winning Farm spanned the 3 towns here. Both the Woburn and Winchester parts of the old farm have been developed into residential housing in recent years. Corner 7 is accessible via a short hike from both Winchester and Woburn. Gershon Way off Thornbury Road in Winchester provides access to the over 5-foot monument after a short walk through brush. The corner seen by more people every day is number 8. It can be found in the median of Cambridge Street, opposite the Whole Foods supermarket in the Horn Pond shopping plaza. The original corner monument was a rough granite post. The present monument is a finely finished granite post with the letter W and the number 1934 on the southwesterly face and WO on the northerly face. Corner 11, on Pond Street, has seen a lot of change in the last century. The buildings in the background of the 1899 photo were the ice houses of the Boston Ice Company that stood on the south and east shores of Horn Pond. In the winter, ice was cut in blocks from Horn Pond, then stored in the numerous ice houses around the shore of the pond. A short railroad spur connecting the ice houses to the Boston and Lowell Railroad in Winchester was opened in 1854. In 1907, 6 of the big wooden ice houses burned to the ground, and 20 years later, the railroad spur was shut down. The south end of Horn Pond is now a popular recreation area. On the west side of Pond Street, opposite the Eversource electrical substation, corner 11 is marked by a 4 1/2 foot high granite post. It is readily visible on the left side of Pond Street as you drive towards Horn Pond. Corner 12 is where the town line crosses Main Street. This corner is somewhat unusual as it has both a corner and a witness mark. Both are at the level of the sidewalk, with the corner mark on the street side and the witness mark some 5 feet west on the opposite side of the walk. Being at the level of the curb, the marker is only visible if you walk on the west side of Main Street. It's located approximately opposite the Enco Exchange. Corner 13 is found on the west side of Washington Street, in front of the concrete wall surrounding the Pride of Boston Cemetery. The monument is a little over 3 feet high and made of rough granite. Other than the concrete wall around the cemetery and a few houses, not much has changed. Corner 15 is the farthest north and east corner of Winchester. The original monument was a rough granite monument 4 1/3 feet in height, with the letter S for Stoneham on the north and east faces and W on the south face. This monument now sits in the front yard of 6 Hill Street, and to a keen eye, the monument is still visible from the street. Over the years, the soil is built up and only the top few inches of the old 4-foot marker are visible. The first of several corners that lie in the Middlesex Fells Reservation is corner 16. This is the 5th boundary tri-point where Winchester, Stoneham, and Medford meet. Before the incorporation of Winchester, the marker was the old Woburn, Stoneham, Medford corner. The corner mark is a rough granite monument 3½ feet in height and lies a few feet west, just off a busy path in the fells. As corner monuments go, Corner 17 is unique among all the Winchester monuments. Instead of the usual granite post, this corner mark is an iron post, 4 feet in height and 1 3/8 inches square, set in ledge. The letter M is cut on the east face, W on the west face, and 6 on the south face. This marker is difficult to find. It stands about 90 feet east of the Nampashmet Road trail in the fells. The last corner of the 1899 boundary, corner 18, was the southeast corner of Woburn before the creation of Winchester. A slightly pyramid-shaped granite post, 3¼ foot high, marks corner 18. This monument can be found standing about 180 feet southeast of the intersection of Skyline Trail and Nampashmet Road in the fells. Woburn's old southern boundary was a line going northwesterly from the monument to a point on today's Main Street and Black Horse Terrace. The old Black Horse Tavern was next to this old boundary line. Well, there you have it, the story of Winchester's changing shape. Winchester is a town created from the adjacent towns of Medford, West Cambridge, now Arlington, and Woburn. In the years since its creation, various land transfers to and from the adjacent towns changed the original shape of the town. Compared to its original size 175 years ago, Winchester today is about 35 acres smaller. Happy 175th, Winchester.
Okay, before I take questions, I'd like to thank a few folks who made this film possible. First, Sean Broderick. I don't know whether he's here or not. He's from the Winchester Engineering Department, and he always promptly answered my endless questions about town boundaries, corners, and all things surveying and mapping. I connected with him over a decade ago, just curious as to where all these granite posts were, and he has been really helpful. Alan Iden, who is here, who has been my narrator for 3 films. And of course, behind him hiding is Ellen Knight, who's our reference archivist. And Ellen is the keeper of Winchester's history and provides a wealth of knowledge about where to find the interesting little historical bits. Is Bill Swanton here? I didn't see him. There he is. Video assistant extraordinaire who trudged through the fells in search of the monuments and was also responsible for uncovering the missing witness mark in corner 2. We really sweated that one, and there's an article in the Winchester News on that. We would, and of course, WinCam providing their studio. And certainly last but not least, my wife, Carol Keller, who's hiding in front of Alan there, who has been a constant supporter of my filmmaking project and has a keen eye for what the film needs. Thanks, love. One more item before I'll take questions is if you're interested in scavenge hunting, or maybe I should say, well, anyway, hunting for the monuments, there's a sign up sheet over there on the table, your name and email address, and I'll make sure I put a copy together. This is what is in the 1899 book. And I've just rearranged it because it's all over. And it's corner by corner. And also when I did this, I measured at the points, the corners I could find. So there's today's latitude and longitude. So if you have a GPS, you can readily find them today. So yeah, if you have a Saturday, nothing to do, you can go walking around the boundary. You can go perambulating. Okay, questions, anyone? Well, there's one, if it's the one I think you're referring to, that if there's two, there's the corner itself is in the front yard, okay? However, you may be referring to a line, what's called a limestone. I didn't go into this. There are several limestones visible in town too, and a limestone just marks the boundary line in appropriate places. Some have disappeared, there's a few still left. There's a limestone on the north side of Forest Street, just before the bridge overpass. It's behind the fence. That's a limestone. It's not a corner, it's a limestone. As far as I know, yes. In fact, the town hasn't done it in, I think Sean told me, in about a decade. Yeah, the engineering department has been doing it in recent times. And they've just been apparently overwhelmed with projects to do this. You know, check out all of them. There's 2 that don't exist anymore. But to check, it's a lot of time to do that. Thank you.
Looking at your maps, it seems like the reservoir of water is outside the town boundary. Is that correct?
Most of it is, yes. Our reservoirs are in Stoneham and Medford, yes. Yeah. So maybe we should have done like Woburn said, give us the land. Just an I. It could be 1. Some of these, not many of them, this is on the 1899 survey. They are numbered, like ours are numbered, those are the way it was numbered 1 to 18. Well, if you went to the Medford book, for example, they would have a different sequence. Sometimes the number of the adjacent town sequence is also on the market, only in a few places. That probably is what it is. There are a few that have that, yes. Yes, witness mark. This can, rot your brain, this stuff. The witness mark, there's one key place where there's a witness mark because that's the 1899 corner 2, which is in the middle of Upper Mystic Lake. So what they did is they put 2 stones as witness marks supposedly on the line on the shoreline. And that's the one, there's one that we found, and Bill Swanton could tell you about the west witness mark. The east witness mark is up off Mystic Valley Parkway. It's sort of hidden. And in fact, according to the survey, it has been displaced somewhere along the line. It got displaced, so it doesn't really show that it's not really on the town line. But they put them in where they can't or where they need to reference where the corner is. Don't know why they did one on Main Street. That's not obvious to me.
There were a number of the corners that seemed to be a straight line. Or was actually a change in direction at that point, or are they on a straight line? And if they're on a straight line, why did they have a corner there?
See, if you noticed, if you carefully listen to the description, the legislation that created the incorporated town of Winchester, it said on a straight line. Well, when they surveyed, that was 1850. When they actually went and surveyed latitude, longitude, it was not on a straight line. And that's why there's our corners, where they didn't allude to the corners in the original verbal description when they described the outline of the town.
Are there some properties that are in property, so some taxes?
Oh yeah, in the southeast corner. I don't know, is anybody here who has their kitchen in one town and yeah. Yes, Bill just said the corner of his lot is in Arlington. But yes, if you look at some of the assessor's maps, it's a real problem in the southeast corner that they built early. I think they finally, it was good to see that they recognized, a practical problem. And, a decade, 15 years later, when they developed the west side of town, that they said, maybe we should move the boundary so it just makes life easier certainly for taxpayers.
So you pay only one property tax bill? No, I haven't.
Joyce.
Yeah, the house I used to live in on Wright Street was the same way. The driveway was in Arlington, but also the water came from Arlington. It was at the top of the hill. And I used to have to write out a check to Arlington. And we had a dispute one year because both towns claimed that they were not supplying water to our house. So I said, well, we need all that money back that we've been paying. And that got them to send out a survey from both towns and figure out what was what.
Peter, unless I missed something, there was no reference to what's the name, Colonel Winchester, the $5,000 he gave to have Winchester named after him.
3,000.
3,000.
Yes. Yeah, I dropped the colonel, but you can show that film again. All about him. We just want to know who the guy was, and that was it.
In the early part of the film, there were a number of drawings or whatever people, legislatures. Were those actually related specifically to this, or was it just took stock films of people in the legislature?
You mean the graphics? Yeah, I recognize there's when you do this, I try to get at least images that if you can't get images or graphics of the event, I try to get close, at least period wise. There's a publication that you can find them online, most of them, originally I think it was called Gleason's Pictorial, which started in the late 1840s. And it was the forerunner of, some of you can remember, Life magazine. It was really a forerunner, illustrated. And what they did were all those graphics. And that's where most of them came from. It changed names to Ballou's Pictorial. And it was from, stationed in, it was in Boston. And so the good news is they had a lot of local graphics from local areas and so forth. The graphic of the when the legislation's passed for the town, that's actually in 1850 that graphic was supposed to be the State House, and so that one was correct. But yes, that's where that's where I get most of my graphics from.
As I understand it, as occurred in one of your brackets, the entire state of Massachusetts is divided. There's nothing in Massachusetts in town. Is that right?
Cities.
Or cities, well, municipalities, whatever.
Yeah, I believe so.
We're the town of Winchester and, Cambridge and city.
Yes.
So there are two types, but they're all municipalities. There's nothing that's like this country. Every spot in Massachusetts is either.
I don't know. I don't know whether we have plantations anymore. Thank you. Well, it was referred to on some maps. This area is referred to as Waterville. It was never any Waterfields. I'm sorry, Waterfield, and it was never any incorporated municipality at all. It was just an area, and that was what people called it.
That was not one of the proposed names.
Yes, it was. It was. Yeah, that didn't make it. We got Winchester instead, and $3,000. Okay, thank you very much.
So thank you, Peter, for all that you do. And I also want to take a moment to say, like, we do our best to try and capture Winchester's history in all different facets. And this particular year, we've really focused on the 175 and the people that have made a difference, the architecture, the shape. And so, we love this town and we want to see that it moves forward in the best possible way. And if you're not a member, why the hell aren't you a member? And so this is your official invitation to please join us and bring your talents. Peter, for example, has this wonderful talent as a filmmaker. And his contribution, and we'd love to make use of your talent. And so please see me if you're not already a member. I'd love to make you change that story. Just to mark your calendar as well, as our next event is a holiday party. So December 7th at the Sanborn House, you are welcome, 2:00, and we hope to see you there. And so here we are in November, and I do want to take a moment also for, this is a week in which we're honoring our men and women who've served the country. And I do want to respectfully, and their families, all that they sacrificed. And so I do want to take a moment and acknowledge that. And it's important that we remember all those contributions. And so thank you all. We hope you have a wonderful holiday, Thanksgiving, the holiday seasons among us, and thanks so much also for coming tonight. Thanks.